Welcome to The Explainer. Sunday, October 5th is absolutely massive in the world of football. We've got it all. Clubs fighting tooth and nail to survive, giants going head-to-head for titles all over Europe. So let's get you up to speed.
All right, here's the game plan. We're going to start right down at the bottom, where the stakes are frankly terrifying. Then we'll shoot up to the top of the table. We'll also shine a spotlight on the women's leagues, take a whirlwind tour of Europe, and then we'll hunt for the big one. Which giant is about to stumble?
Okay, first up, let's head straight to the pressure cooker. We're talking about that desperate, gut-wrenching fight just to stay in the top division. You know, these are the games where every single point feels like winning a trophy.
And yeah, that pressure is already cranked way up at the bottom of the Premier League. I know, it's still early in the season, right? But for a couple of these clubs, those alarm bells, they're not just ringing, they're screaming.
And just look at how tight this is. I mean, Burnley, still hunting for that first win, sitting on just 2 points. And you've got Aston Villa and Everton, just teetering on the edge. One bad result, and they could find themselves right at the very bottom.
So, the biggest game down there has to be this one at Villa Park. It's a classic six-pointer. Now, Villa, being without their rock at the back, Tyrone Mings, that's a huge deal. Still, the prediction is they'll just about manage to squeak out a 2-1 win. But you can bet Burnley will be absolutely desperate to spoil that party.
Everton are in a very similar spot, facing what really is a must-win game at Goodison. And losing a calm head like Jared Branthwaite in defense, that's a real blow. But the call is still for a nervy 2-1 win. Man, a victory like that would just give them so much breathing room, you know?
All right, let's flip the script. From the basement to the penthouse. Let's see how the hunt for silverware is shaping up across the continent. This is where the real glory is.
Over in Portugal. Wow, the title race is just on fire. Sporting has carved out a nice little lead, but just look at that traffic jam right behind them. You've got Porto, Benfica, and Braga all stuck together on 13 points. It's anyone's game.
And that crazy logjam makes today's derby, the legendary O Clásico, absolutely monumental. This is a massive chance for Porto to break out of that pack, and even though they're missing a few key players, they're still tipped to get the job done against their arch-rivals Benfica. A 2-1 home win is the prediction.
Hopping over to Spain, and well, this one looks a little less competitive. You've got the league leaders Barcelona visiting a Sevilla side that's really been struggling. Now, Barca are missing their star keeper Ter Stegen and the engine in their midfield, Gavi. But it doesn't seem to matter. The prediction is a pretty commanding 3-0 win for them. And you know, the main reason for all that confidence, even with big names out, it's simple. It's Robert Lewandowski. I mean, when you have one of the planet's deadliest strikers leading the line, you're always a threat. He's the kind of guy who just wins you games, period.
Okay, let's switch gears and put the spotlight on the Women's Super League. We've got some really intriguing games today with huge implications at both the top and the bottom.
So, what's the big takeaway from today's WSL predictions? Well, look at this. Half the games, a full 50%, are expected to end in a draw. What does that tell you? It tells me this league is incredibly close this season. There's just nothing separating these teams.
And here's a look at the actual matchups. You see those 2 0-0 draws predicted, but wait, check out the one at the bottom. West Ham are actually tipped to pull off a shock 1-0 win against Aston Villa. Think about that. Beating the team currently sitting in second place, that would be an absolutely massive result for them. And a huge reason for that predicted Leicester-Everton stalemate. It's all about this injury. Losing your star forward, your main goal threat, Gise, that's just a killer blow. Her being out till November really takes the teeth out of their attack, and it makes a 0-0 draw seem, well, pretty likely.
All right, let's do a quick fire round. A little tour of Europe to see what else is happening in the big leagues, where title contenders are trying to flex their muscles.
First up, Italy, Seria. Third-place Napoli are playing at home. Yeah, they're missing their captain, Di Lorenzo, which isn't ideal, but honestly, they should still have way too much firepower for a mid-table Genoa side. The prediction? A pretty straightforward 2-0 win.
Now to Germany, and a real top versus bottom clash. Stuttgart have been one of the big surprise packages this season, just playing fantastic football. And that great form is expected to roll on with a 2-1 win against a Heidenheim team that is just having a really tough time.
And let's finish our tour in France. League leaders PSG have a potentially tricky trip to Lille. They're missing a couple of key attackers in Dembélé and Barcola, but come on, it's PSG. Their squad is ridiculously deep, and that's exactly why they're still predicted to find a way and grind out a 2-1 victory.
Okay, so we've seen all these predictions that mostly favor the big clubs, which naturally leads to the big question, right? Where's the upset? Where is a giant going to fall this weekend?
Because when you look closely, a bunch of top teams across Europe look, well, a little bit vulnerable. They're dealing with injuries to absolute superstars, they're facing tough opponents, the conditions are definitely right for a shock result. You just have to know where to look.
And the single biggest piece of news that could change everything this weekend is this. Manchester City's literal goal machine, Erling Haaland, is a huge doubt. I mean, how do you replace a guy like that? You can't. Taking him out of the lineup completely changes how City attack, and you gotta think it gives Brentford a real glimmer of hope.
So here are your official upset alerts for the weekend. Man City, yeah, they're still the favorites, but playing without Haaland, that's a massive, massive variable. Then you've got that Porto-Benfica derby. In those games, you can just throw the form book out the window. Anything can happen. And you should probably keep an eye on Newcastle, too. These are the matches to circle. This is where the surprise could be hiding.
So there you have it. That's the briefing. The predictions are all in, but we all know football loves to tear up the script. Will the big dogs have their day, or is this the weekend we see some real chaos? Well, there's only one way to find out. Enjoy the matches.